Alright, I just downloaded and installed Pro 2024 Trial. And I drew a square rectangular spaced shape and stuck a window in it. This is just a default window. I've turned off temporary dimensions and all the other clutter that comes along with these trials. So this is what you get out of the box. I've got a window. I've turned on the layer for labels. And when I select a window, I've also, you go into preferences and you come down here to colors, you can change the colors of all these handles so they're easier to see and they are easier to find. And if you come down here to edit, you can change the size of those. So I've made them a little bigger. I don't remember what it started with. I think it was a 4, but I've made it bigger so I could see these things. And I've also turned on show start and end indicators. That's not important for what we're talking about now, but that's helpful, and I'll show you about that before I end the video. And so say okay. So when I select this window, I've got a deal out here that I can change the size like this. And I've got one of these on the other side. And you notice what happens when I select that, it changes color. And when I want to move this window, I'm going to turn temporary dimensions back on. When I select the window, if I select it over here, that tells the program what I'm going to do, how I'm going to move things. So let's make this, instead of that goofy number, let's make this 48. And you can see that the window expanded to the left. I'm going to undo, and I'm going to click it, and I'm going to click that right there. So let's make this 48. And you can see the window expanded over to the right side. I'm going to undo. If I just select the window and try, you see what's happening here is nothing. I'm not able to select anything right here. What happens if I select this over here? Let's make this 5 feet. The whole window moves. Let's make this 5 feet. The whole window moves. So anyway, that's enough about windows. I can also pick up snaps. It's kind of hard to see because my cursor is right there. I cheated and moved out so I can see where I was going. Right underneath my cursor, let me zoom in here. If I come down here and pick up the edge of the wall, you can see right under my cursor there's an hourglass. And if I move it this way, and if I keep my cursor down there where it's supposed to be, it changes to a diamond. And that diamond says I'm at the center of the wall. So it's back out. And let's select the window. So you can see it's 7 feet 7/7/16 on both sides. The other thing is that if I select a window or a door, if I select on the inside, my dimensions are on the inside. If I select over here on the outside edge, my dimensions are over here. So I'm dimensioning, the key thing is I'm dimensioning to different parts of the wall out here on the end. And you can see if you zoom in over here, I'm dimensioning to the framing. You can set these up to where they dimension to the sheetrock, I think. Okay, back to your question. When I select the window, I get a couple little squares. This one right here is pretty hard to see because it's real small. That one right there. But you get 2 of them. The big one is for the window. The big one is for moving the window back and forth like that. The little one moves the label. I can put the label wherever I want it. Now what I'm not able to do is position the label precisely. There's no way to select just this label other than with this little handle. Let's open up the window and go to the label tab. Here's another tip if I can find it real quick. By default, when you open things up, like a window or a door or a wall or anything, if you open things up, the default is to always start here at the general panel. These things, this area over here is a panel, and these have a name too, but they're like tabs used to be. There's a setting in preferences. Alright, I'm going to have to okay, here it is. Under General. Preferences under General. Right here, open dialogues to the last panel visited. So I'm going to check that. It's unchecked by default. I'm going to check that and say OK. Now I'm going to open up this window, and it always opens to the last, or the default panel over here. So we're going to look at the label. So I'm going to come down here and click Label. You don't have many options here. You can specify your label. You can add some text in here. You can do what Rookie said. You can add some carriage returns in front of that. And say OK. And so that'll also move the label around. You can also, I think, let's see, let's go over here to defaults, go to Window. And you notice how when I opened up the window defaults, I'm at the label panel. The program now remembers the last panel that I was on, and it goes there. So if I do specify label, I'm going to stick a couple of carriage returns in there and say OK, and done. So let's stick another window right over here. Oh no, that's weird. That's really weird. Alright, maybe that doesn't work. I was thinking that you could probably put those carriage returns in on the default window, but maybe you can't. Anyway, so that's a ramble about moving these things. You can see that this is a lot easier. I should have done that before. It's a lot easier to see this little move handle with those carriage returns up here above. But again, there's no way to precisely, that's pretty, I mean, it's according to my eyes, pretty well centered. But that was just accidental. See, I'm off a little bit, so it's kind of a pain. Okay, start and end indicators. If I click this wall up here, you see this S, that's the start. You see this E, that's the end. If I click this one right here, start, end, and the reason is because I drew those walls like this. You can see when I click there, I'm getting start and end indicators. So what happens if I come up here and do it this way? I'm automatically going to get start and end reversed. Let's try drawing something like this. Now you'll notice that Chief automatically, when I drew that wall, sorry I'm rambling here, when I drew this wall, you'll notice that the siding is on the inside. This is one reason I always suggest to people that they leave layers displayed. Lots of people like to turn off layers and just see the main layer. They just want to see the studs. But you can draw a lot of stuff that's wrong when you do that. So leave layers on if you can. Anyway, you'll notice when I drew this room backwards, as I was drawing it, it's backwards. So watch what happens up here when I connect it. Chief automatically, not Chief, Home Designer automatically flips the walls around because it thinks that it knows more than you do, and the siding should face out and not in. Okay, so you got a wall like this. I'm going to use this one because it's shorter. You got a wall like this, and you know where the start, there's the end, there's the start. You know where those are. And so if you open this wall up and go to structure, notice it started at label because I remembered where it was. So we're going to go to structure. Right here it says wall intersections, through wall at end, through wall at start. And those change how the walls interact with other walls. It's kind of hard to explain. You might want to read in the help about this. But sometimes when you've got an oddball situation, like I think you were asking about where you had a bathroom and you had exterior and interior walls meeting at like a T-type configuration, and they weren't doing something correct. And I think Rookie suggested that you mess with the start and end indicators, because that tells how a wall builds through. Let's see here. This is so much easier in Chief. Let's see, walls through wall lines. Let's turn on that layer and say okay. And now you'll see these. Now you'll see these lines down here. Everywhere you look, there's a line right here. And that's a through wall line. So if I open this wall and I do through wall at end and say okay, you can see how that changed. That through wall line changed. It's difficult to explain real easily and quickly how that changes things, but it does in some circumstances. If you try that and it doesn't do anything, put it back the way it was. Don't leave those set, because that's not the way it probably won't hurt anything, but if you try that setting and it doesn't do anything, uncheck it to keep future problems from happening. Okay, that's way more than just how to move these labels around, but There's just so much to talk about with this program. And I guess my final tip is, if you're asking about a window label, ask about a window label. Don't ask about window dimensions, because they're two different things. A label is like a container. A label contains things. It doesn't, you're either talking about a window label or you're talking about the contents of the window label, which in this case are the dimensions of the window. And obviously you can write things in here. A lot of people that are doing remodels want to add something like existing to things like windows. And so you'll know that when you're making a list to buy stuff, that you don't want to buy an existing window because it's already there. So let's look real quick at Chief. I know this doesn't have anything to do with Home Designer Pro, but I just thought I'd show you what you're missing. So I'm going to click on this window, and here's the label panel for Chief. There's just a zillion different options, and there's also options for X and Y offset. So pretty typically people will do -12 here and say OK, and you can see that automatically moves that label down. But you can see I've also got this same thing here. I can grab that, and I can still manually move that label. And let's do that again. Let's manually move it down here. And then if I open up the window, right here you can see that the X offset is, I've moved it a little bit, it's 1/8 inch off, and now the Y offset is -21. I can also, if I want to, change the angle, which is helpful in some cases. Rotating it at 90 degrees, for example, depending on the orientation of your plan on the layout. All right, that's enough.